Good morning, everybody from Baltimore in the United States. This is Addison Shonland. It is June the 30th. My guest today, Rui Carreira, CEO of TAAG Airlines in Angola, who's calling in from Luanda. Morne, who is Head of Structured Asset Finance at ABSA Bank in Johannesburg. And Samir Adam, who is RVP Sales for pretty much the whole world for de Havilland, Canada. Thank you very much for being on the call with me today. And what we would like to talk about is the fresh delivery this week of a new airplane from de Havilland to Angola, financed in Johannesburg. A very complicated deal, made more complicated now by COVID. And I guess we could start off, Morne, if you could talk to us first about the bank. You know, our audience probably would benefit from an introduction of ABSA.
Yeah, so thanks, Addison. Thanks for having me on your show today. Yeah, so ABSA Bank is a bank based in South Africa. We're a Pan-African bank, so we've got regional presence in Africa. Basically previously owned by Barclays, and then the divestment sort of created an opportunity to start a structured asset finance team, which was established in 2018. We had a focus on movable assets, which include aircraft finance, land transport, and vessels. You know, we're a small team, we're 4 people, but collectively we have over 20 years of experience in asset finance. You know, we've brought that expertise over to ABSA, and I think, you know, what we've done by executing this transaction is proven, you know, that we can execute in tough and challenging times, which is a big plus in these times. Mm. And then, yeah, so maybe just touching on some of the deals that we've done. Obviously, this TAAG deal, we did a PDP transaction for them as well. We've done deals for Carreira, for a leasing company called TrueNord, and then for road transportation companies called GRW. So yes, we've had a good start over the last 2 years for our new business.
Rui, TAAG is an airline that is probably not well known in the United States, but it's a player in Africa. Could you tell us a little bit about the company, please?
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting. TAAG Angola Airlines is a company that has it is about more than 82 years old. It comes from former colonial Portuguese status in Angola. This company has now 13 airplanes. From yesterday, 14. It comprises 8 Boeing 777s and 5 Boeing 737s NG. And from yesterday, we have the newest member of our family at Dash8 400. So we strongly our network is most of all domestic and regional in Africa. We have also flying intercontinental, mainly to Portugal. We have 2 destinations to Portugal, Lisbon and Porto. We fly also to Brazil and Cuba. So this is, in small words, what TAAG is about.
Okay. Gentlemen, I don't know who would like to go first. Maybe Rui, since your mic is live. What's it like trying to do a deal, getting a new delivery in the midst of this COVID crisis? There was obviously some delay in the movement of paperwork and transactions. It must have been quite a complicated activity.
Yes, it was a little bit. It was a little bit. I can. Yes, it was not easy, but we have a very good communication with ABSA. So we talked almost every day, exchanging emails, conferences, calls. So it's run very well.
Okay. Morne, from your perspective,
yeah.
Is it more complicated than normal? How much more complicated?
Yeah, Edison, I think, you know, just given the challenge around the normal transaction, you know, you've got so many parties involved, you've got so many jurisdictions, you know, one thing that you don't realize when you're doing these things is like how COVID impacted different parts of the world in different times. Like I think Canada closed before South Africa. So the manufacturing plant, the shutdown happened while we were still negotiating agreements, right? And then once you finalized negotiating agreements, then you realize, but wait a minute, we can't deliver at this point in time. So as Rui pointed out, you know, clear communications throughout this whole process was key. And I think relationships as well was very important. You know, talking to the manufacturer, I think what helped is the fact that, you know, I know Samir for years now, and we could jump on a call quickly and sort out any problems there were in deliveries, etc. And the same with Rui. We've known him for the last 6-7 months since we started negotiating these agreements. And, you know, we all need to play our little part in this, but it is extremely complex. If you think of, you know, your legal team sitting in London and Hong Kong, you've got the manufacturer based in Canada, you've got the bank sitting in South Africa, as well as in Egypt, because we were supported by Afri-Exim Bank on this transaction as well. And then you've got TAAG in Angola. You can imagine the talks, the conversations, you know, everybody needed to be coordinated to help this deal take place.
Yeah, I got a sense of that. As anybody watching this video today will get in the sense of the range of geography involved in this. This is the most complicated Zoom I've ever done. So thanks for doing this with me. Samir, what's it like doing business right now in this craziness, the COVID craziness?
Well, I have to admit it's exciting because, you know, when we look at challenges on a day-to-day basis of bringing an aircraft to any customer, there's always a number of tasks and challenges and hurdles that come in under normal circumstances. In this environment, we are working with a customer for whom, in this case with TAAG, the aircraft was the first type. So when you're bringing in a brand new type and it's the first delivery, and we're trying to work with a structure that hasn't really been implemented yet. And when I talk structure in terms of the financing and all the parties involved, as Morne touched on, you've got a lot of entities on different corners of the globe, and Morne touched on 5 different countries there. So when you look at it from a perspective of not being able to sit in front of people, not being able to exchange documents when you need to do something that's going to be notarized or something's going to have a certain stamp on it, you know, that whole element has to be completely rethought. And we've got to be a little bit creative. And Morne is 100% right that this is purely based on the relationships that we have on everybody on the screen. You know, we've known Rui for a better part of a decade, and have known Morne equally about a decade as well. Tells us how old we're all getting. But the reality here is that you've got people who are vested in, from all the different angles, to completing the transaction successfully. And it's a question of overcoming the hurdles to the best possibility, and where creativity is needed. You know, the creativity certainly came out immediately to make it happen. We had conference calls starting at 5, 6 in the morning in some cases on my side. We had late conference calls. I know on Rui's side, it was sometimes almost midnight that we were talking. And Morne, he was either heading back from a family event at one point, if I recall, in the evening. You know, so we've just got to work with what we have. And the outcome becomes as successful as we just did. So it takes a lot of dedication from all sides for sure. But it's exciting because regional aircraft are certainly driving the restart for the various operators in this current environment. And we get to be in the privileged position to help drive that restart for all of our customers. In this case, for TAAG specifically, you know, we see there's a need for the Dash8 coming in as soon as possible. First is delivered. Now we're looking forward to that actually being implemented and deployed onto particular routes, and then working with the financiers as we get ready for the next delivery, which is only a few weeks away.
That's amazing. It's interesting that this deal, I suppose, even it could even just be a good litmus for how this industry works. It's always about the people and the relationships. It's just an amazing thing. The deal is groundbreaking. in as much as I believe ABSA has, the way you've structured this deal, there's some green aspect to it. Maybe you can tell us about that, please, Morne.
Yeah, so I think what's important to understand is that airlines are integral and central to any country's economy, and they sort of perform an important task in facilitating economic growth, be it for business or for leisure. I think this deal will assist the airline in reducing its operating costs. I think that's one of the key features that we saw there, and that's as a result of this airline being more fuel efficient, as well as reducing its carbon footprint. Based on the information that we've received, these aircraft will specifically reduce the carbon footprint of TAAG by 7.8 tons per year. And that's a significant achievement for this airline. I think that those are big numbers and definitely speak to, everybody taking responsibility for the impact that we have on our environment and the world. So yeah, I think that's a key achievement for the airline with taking delivery of these aircraft.
Rui, from your perspective, what does the Dash8 going to do for your network? What's your anticipation?
Okay, our strategy is to increase our regional and domestic connectivity to boost internal businesses and tourism, first of all. So we also want to help Angolan government to diversify its economy, because now it's strongly dependent on oil production. And we believe that aviation can play a very important role in this regard. So that's why for this purpose, we need an aircraft like Dash8, which can fly relatively short distances. We are talking about flights from 45 minutes to 1 hour and a half, with 50 to 70 people on board, and also fly high altitude airdromes and short runways. So this is how this airplane fits in our commercial strategy.
When one looks at the load factors that airlines are getting these days with, the restrictions to travel and the difficulty of flying, for example, a big market for you would be going south to South Africa, but until the bubbles are opened where you can actually fly around, it's difficult. And I would imagine flying a turboprop where you can get good economics at much lower load factors is going to be highly attractive.
That's right. That's why you wanted an airplane like this. But the market, the demand in Africa, in aviation, in global aviation, depends strongly on the economic performance of the countries. So it is this is a link between economic performance and overall results of aviation. So we believed before COVID-19 that the African economy were at the stage of increasing its performance. So we meant to link some main cities in Africa and the use of these airplanes, not only within Angola, but in the countries that are nearby, will help us to increase our economic and financial performance of the company.
Does the Dash8, does it act as additional lift or replacement lift for what you have now that you've been using regionally? In meaning, would you be using your 737s differently because you now have a Dash8 in the fleet?
So we believe that 737s, it's an airplane conceived to fly legs from 2 hours to 4 hours. It's not well fitted to shorter legs, unless you have a big load factors. But now it's not the case. So we think that acquiring these Dash8s, for us, it is a plus. 70 places, this configuration, we have 74 places on board. So it is the ideal in these times. Because also because of COVID, people will decrease the purchase power. People will travel less. And the characteristics of this airplane will help us to not waste a lot of money in operational costs.
Right. It's interesting what you're saying. I've spoken to several airline people who've been saying that the recovery in air travel is going to start at the regional level because it's going to be a bottom-up recovery. And I sense that you're thinking the same way.
Yes.
Morne, does ABSA now, do you think you have a formula? You said you have a small team, but you seem to be punching above your weight, so to speak. Do you think that you have a formula here that you've developed with the TAAG example and with the Havilland? Is there a formula now that you could apply in other markets across Africa?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a formula, and I think what helps ABSA is that the fact that we've got a footprint in 12 African countries, which enables us to offer clients in Africa specifically local currency solutions, specifically for aircraft or like movable assets finance required, and that platform positions us uniquely on the continent to offer clients these type of solutions. I know this specifically deal was a dollar-based deal, but I think there's definitely some opportunities that we can unlock on the continent, given our presence in Africa. Now that we've shown that we have the execution ability, I think that gives people the comfort that we can execute on these deals. I think the other thing that was also very beneficial is our relationship with DFIs, to bring them on board and give them the comfort, that the way we've structured the transactions gives them comfort that, we're doing the right things and we're securing the transaction in the correct manner. And I think all those sort of things give people comfort to say, well, here's an asset class that we can finance into, let's support this, because as I previously pointed out, airlines are central to this continent. So yeah, I think we definitely have proven that we've got the concept here that will work.
So Mary, if we look at the African market as a whole, the Dash8 has been very successful, and I'm sure that's no small part to your efforts. I know you're hard to reach because you're always running around there, and you probably know everybody from the Mediterranean to Cape Point. What is your sense of the regional opportunities across the continent that might be able to exploit this new model that Morne has described?
So I would fully agree with Morne's statement on their footprint, because that has actually been one of the key recipes to the success of this transaction. Morne and I have talked in the past generally when he came onto ABSA's team and looked at how we might shift things a little bit in our conversations to prepare for other transactions, opportunities. And in this particular instance, I think the real aspect here is to have a look at the African landscape. And the approach that African airlines are taking is very much a nationalistic approach, focusing on their own domestic operations. And every African country will want their own airline, or in some cases, there are multiple airlines, such as in South Africa. But in each case, the requirement has to be bottom up. So as Rui touched on, aviation is an economic driver for Angola. In the same way as Morne has talked about, they see that same perspective as a financier for various countries in the continent. The key here is going to be that bottom-up growth, that organic domestic growth to help drive movement of people, growing secondary and tertiary cities, and to be able to create that economic engine that eventually grows into regional and long-haul flight options. So ultimately, the continent is continuing to grow in one aspect or another. And rich in natural resources, there needs to be air connectivity. That growth has to come from regional aircraft. That growth has to come from support like financiers like ABSA with DFIs behind them, because they see strategically that the continent's growth has to go beyond just the airline. And I think that's really where the recipe for the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very tied to what Africa does.
Rui, I'm going to probably give you my last question. If we look at the situation where Luanda could be a hub for traffic behind and to the south, flying not only to Europe, but you've mentioned Brazil, you've mentioned Cuba. The obvious place that I'm thinking about is the States. Is there any interest in turning Luanda into a hub with the increased footprint with the regional airplanes, but you have the 737 that can reach pretty much anywhere? 4 hours is a lot of flying time in Africa. Do you feel that this fleet could start generating the opportunities for you to look at traffic to North America?
Maybe yes, but our goal is to transform Luanda in a regional hub and then to link Angola or Africa to another countries in Europe mainly. Because, for example, if you fly to French-speaking countries in Africa, you have to have a route direct from Luanda to Paris. If you link countries, English-speaking countries in Africa, you also have to have a flight direct to London, for example. For the United States, for us it's important also because of the oil production industry.
Right.
It is also a very good market. So I think that the hub in Luanda can help this strategy. And of course, having a fleet like Dash8, you can use our Boeing 737s and 777s to other routes, to more longer routes, and to spend more this energy of Dash8s more domestically.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time and the effort in putting together this conversation. Thanks again.
Thank you very much and welcome.
Thanks, Edison.
Thank you.